When people turn to healthcare for weight loss, they're looking for real support. That's why more people are choosing OrderlyMeds.com. Orderly Meds connects you with real doctors and access to proven GLP-1 medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide. No guessing, just a more supportive experience. And all shipped directly to your door in discreet packaging. Do your research. Ask questions. Then visit OrderlyMeds.com/podcast for an exclusive offer. That's OrderlyMeds.com/podcast. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.
Hey now! Happy Friday, my friends. Welcome to Scott Box After 9. It is a Listener DMs Friday, and I'm going to get to those in just a sec. A little programming note, if I may. If you are one of the listeners who gets caught up over the weekend and you binge the whole week at the same time, just so you know, there was only 4 episodes this week. I'm just getting back into the swing of things for this week. Next week, I'm anticipating is going to be a full week, and don't worry, I'm getting back into routine here. I just had a couple of things that I had to deal with. I'm going to start off with a DM, but I am going to weave in a whole ton of audio into this episode, so you're not just getting perspective from the audience, you're also hearing some of the content that I think you should hear. We're going to talk about the mainstream media a decent amount on this episode. You're also going to hear from the Prime Minister and Steve McKinnon, the government House leader, because what he had to say yesterday, I think, is a big part of the problem that we're having here in Canada right now. Anyway, that's all still to come. First DM, this one is from Jeff. Hi, Scott. I hope you're getting out golfing this year. Jeff, I'm sad to say I've only played twice this year, and it bugs me because I am playing really well, like dialed in with the irons, but I've only been out twice. I'm going to try and rectify that and get out more consistently starting next week. The rest of the message. What is the deal with comments on political posts? I notice on Facebook when a friend commented about the recession, people on the left just tore him apart. These people can't be real, are they? Take good care. Keep up the great pods. Jeff, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. There are people out there who saw on the news all of the debate about whether or not we're in a recession or a technical recession, and they like liberals. So they want to decide with the liberal point of view that we're not in a recession, when all of the evidence indicates we are in a recession. Our economy has contracted in 3 of the last 4 quarters. We've got an incredible drain of our best and brightest leaving this country at a rapid pace. I saw yesterday it was something like 130,000 people left Canada for other countries last year. That's insane. For those people to try and claim that we're not in a recession, I think it really comes from a place of misinformation. They've watched the news. The news has done a very good job at towing the line for the Liberal Party, and they've convinced people the economy's not that bad. It's not that bad. You know, they show endless clips of Liberal ministers repeating the same talking points. It's brainwashing is what it is, and people on the left want to believe them. They don't know that they probably shouldn't take everything they say verbatim, and bam, here we are. There's a lot of people out there defending a narrative that is simply not true. The reality is our economy is in a really bad spot right now, and something's got to happen. Now I'm going to play a clip for you. I want to take you back to last night. It was CBC's The National. On Thursday nights, they do a panel show called At Issue. And in my experience, this panel heavily favors liberal points of view. It seems to me, from watching At Issue for many years now, that while it's not 100% all the time them carrying water for the liberals, when the liberals are in trouble, At Issue usually comes to their defense. They seem very, very, I don't want to say biased, but they seem to carry a liberal point of view and a liberal perspective. And to me, it's abundant when you watch the show. Well, keeping that in mind, that this is typically a fairly pro-liberal panel that's on Thursday nights, I want to play for you a little bit of what was said last night. This is Althea Raj. She is a writer for, I believe it's the Toronto Star, and a well-respected pundit. She is, in my estimation, someone who comes to you from the left, but maybe Althea would like to clear that up at some point and declare her bias. I declare mine all the time. I'm a conservative, and what you hear on this pod is coming to you from the lens of someone who is on the right. Well, listen to what this again, in my opinion, liberal pundit had to say about this liberal government just last night on At Issue.
But I actually want to talk about what happened this week, because I think it feeds into a possible problem that the Liberals need to be attuned to. Last week, Michael Sabia, speaking at the Eurasia Group, this is the clerk of the Privy Council, talked about one of the things the Carney government has that's an asset, which is trust from the public. What happened this week is that the Liberals decided to use their majority to shut down debate and pass legislation that is very controversial, bills that were not studied, in some cases had no witnesses that even testified as to whether this was good or bad. We had the lawful access bill that has gotten a bit more attention across the country. And the government completely shut down the debate. In some cases, they even backdated the ability of opposition members to bring forward amendments, so only government members could bring forward amendments. We have never seen anything like this, ever. Like, we have talked a lot about these kind of moves during the Harper era, especially during his majority government, and with reason. I think we deserve to talk and highlight what is happening in this case. And I bring it up because the trust issue. The government House leader talked about he hopes the conspiracies around C-22, the lawful access bill, would go away, that time would allow these to pass. He talked about tinfoil hat people. This is not a way to bring people along. Okay. If anything, it fuels conspiracies. So there was no reason to pass these bills. They could have taken the summer to study them and bring more Canadians on side. And I think that they are they risk taking, I should say, Canadians' votes for granted. Okay,
Well. That is coming from Althea Raj. That's her being highly critical of how this government has conducted itself, particularly since they got that majority government through the floor crossings. Scary stuff, because you know what? That is not the depiction that you're getting when you watch the news. Nobody in the news is portraying the situation in government like that. I'm glad Althea did that. I agree with everything she said. It's shady how they're running things. They're taking advantage of Canadians who have just been told to trust them. How about that? I think that's a good way to leave it. Let me go on to the next DM here. This one is from Jordan. Hi, Scott. I shared your podcast with a group of 20 people that I went camping with this past weekend. During the weekend, we switched up some music and we listened to your podcast. It really brought a lot of great conversations. Usually, as a group, we stay away from politics, but there's so much going on, I thought I'd introduce them to the podcast. And if they would listen to it, great. If not, no harm done. I've got a lot of them really enjoying listening to some of your older episodes. Some of them like the newer episodes, but it made for a great conversation piece around the campfire and while we were cooking. Thank you for that, Jordan. I appreciate that. One of the kindest things you can do for me is share the pod. Get somebody else listening to it. Have them tell somebody else about it too. That's one of the ways that I can grow this. So thank you very much for introducing me to other people. Other than that, hey, I try to present things from a fairly common sense lens. And one of the things you can't argue with is common sense, because it's common sense. So you know what? If I can spark up a conversation, and it doesn't matter what the topic is, could be politics, it could be something else, I think that's good. I firmly believe we all need to talk more. Forget the noise of social media. Forget the propaganda of mainstream media. We're going to get a lot more solved and find a lot more common ground if we just talk to each other. You know what? Before I move on, while I'm playing a clip here from At Issue on the CBC, I want to play one more. This was an interesting perspective from another journalist who's on the panel weekly, who in my opinion, I got to say that because I don't want to accuse anybody and I might be wrong. But if anybody wants to correct the record, you're welcome to contact me. In my estimation, Chantal Hébert seems like a fairly left-leaning individual. That's the perspective that I think she's coming from. That's what I get from watching her. She also talked about this government last night.
I agree that it's unprecedented to find the government using its newly found majority, not obtained at the polls, to speed up or force feed 9 bills through the House of Commons. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. And I believe that in the end, it leads one to poor relationships between the parties, and you never know when you're going to need help from across the aisle in many instances. but it also leads to bad legislation, because no legislation that is brought in a hurry is perfect, and to not want to hear what others have to say about this is kind of leading you into a place that you're not going to like a couple of years from now.
That was Chantal Hébert talking about this government. Mark Carney barely shows up. He barely shows up for question period. When he does, he'll only take questions from the other party leaders. And now you hear a pretty damning condemnation there from the CBC at issue panel. Is it starting to add up? Like, if you think everything's going well in Ottawa and Carney's doing a great job managing our country, is it starting to add up now that maybe it's not the way you think it is, based purely on watching the news? It's an open-ended question. Next message. This is from Kay. Scott, I love the pod yesterday. I hope you and your loved ones are managing okay at this time of loss. Thank you, Kay. My partner is from Northern Ireland, and he can't believe how much we're taxed here. He feels like he was sold snake oil to come to Canada because it's nothing like he thought it would be, and his quality of life has actually gone down. He worked minimum wage at a warehouse and came here and got into the trades, and his QOL, quality of life, has drastically decreased. I'm sorry to hear that. But you know what? I can tell you that your partner there coming here from Northern Ireland, he is very similar to immigrants who are coming here from many, many other countries. A lot of people got sold a bill of goods that just wasn't true. You know, some people come here and they think it's great. Oh my God, everything's free and they keep giving me money and this is amazing. Okay, well, compared to what you're used to, maybe it is great. But for those of us who live here and pay taxes and have to deal with this insane inflation and crazy interest rates, it ain't it. How about that? Something's got to change. Kay, I love that message, though. Thank you very much. Now let's go to yesterday outside the House of Commons. The Liberal government adjourned the House for the summer. The members of Parliament are on summer break. Steve McKinnon is the government House leader. Listen to him talking about some of the Liberal accomplishments in the legislative session.
What we were up against was repeated hypocrisy and obstruction from the Conservatives. On the one hand, they asked for legislation to assist Canadians to deal with the economic and affordability challenges they face. And when we did that, all too often, they voted against those bills.
That's an interesting one from Steve McKinnon. Let me stop him right there. That's a big talking point when we're discussing politics. Well, the Conservatives voted against this, that, and the other thing. Let me again remind everyone that when the Conservatives vote against something, it's because it doesn't go far enough, or the legislation isn't right, or it's going to encroach on Canadians' rights and freedoms, or something like that. In this case, the House leader is suggesting that the Conservatives don't care that Canadians are struggling because they voted against the measly measures that the Liberals put out there. That fake tax cut that we got a year ago, this grocery rebate, things like that. They voted against it because it doesn't go far enough. People need a lot more than what this government is putting out. And there's two options. Either they don't care, or they're so out of touch that they have no idea what the middle class is dealing with. It's not the flex Steve McKinnon thinks it is to try and call out the Conservatives for voting against Liberal half measures that didn't really fix the problem. They just cost taxpayers a hell of a lot of money.
In keeping with that pattern, they called for legislation to get tough on crime. And when we did that, again, all too often, they stalled, obstructed, filibustered, and ultimately voted against those bills.
This guy's a real antagonist. He really is. He's smart. I'll give him credit. He's smart. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to fire up Liberals and manipulate the general public who isn't really paying attention. That's all he's trying to do there. Does anyone seriously believe, that the Liberals are the party of law and order? The party that let us descend into this chaos? Does anyone think that the bill they put forward went far enough to solve our problems? I don't think anybody does. Conservatives were fighting to strengthen it, not because they opposed safer streets. It's a completely ridiculous suggestion from the government House leader, and he knows it.
Simply put, our government is honored by the mandate Canadians gave us a year ago. We are committed to getting things done, and we did that this spring. So here's a summary of the areas where we passed legislation since January. On the economy, there was, of course, the Budget Implementation Act, which includes measures to create one Canadian economy, build new infrastructure, and support Canadians with lower costs. As part of this bill, the government will double the pace of affordable home building over the next decade, make investments to expand our clean electricity grid, provide enhanced incentives for businesses to make investments, accelerate the path to construction of Alto high-speed rail, a game-changing project in Canadian history that will create 51,000 jobs and provide faster train travel from Toronto to Quebec City, and provide meals for up to 400,000 Canadian kids every day, annually, by establishing long-term, stable funding through the National School Food Program Act.
Does anyone think that that is going to make their life better? Does anyone who is looking down the line at the hydro bill that's coming up and the property tax installment that's due and the gas bill, and not to mention the price of gas, anybody who's got to do a grocery shop anytime soon, does anybody hear anything the Liberal House Minister just said and think, okay, all right, things are about to get better. Any day now, things are about to get better? Of course not. It's more of the same. It's more of the same nonsense. And I know I'm getting a little fired up here, but I can't help but wonder how much longer Canadians are going to tolerate this gaslighting. They come out and tell you all these great things. Are any of them actually doing anything for you? Are they making your life better? Are they making your life more affordable? What is Alto high-speed rail going to do for you? Think about it. Nothing good is happening. All of this is an illusion. Speeches and talking points and a media that's on their side, and they're ramming through bills that are wildly unpopular. Are people paying attention? I don't know. I mean, the government is banking on the fact that people are not paying attention. They really hope people aren't. That's why I didn't think I'd be doing this, but I've got to commend Chantal Hébert and Althea Raj on that issue last night for calling out this government. Next DM. Hi, Scott. What the hell is going on with all these people dying in their 40s? I heard Kyle Calder died yesterday. Like, WTF is all these illnesses? Mike, thank you for the message. I don't know what you mean by illnesses, but I will tell you that I personally am aware of numerous people, young, healthy people, that have died recently. Some of them, including my friend Drew, in a hospital. There's a lot of young people dying right now, and I don't know if we can say they're dying because of this. The people that I know that have passed away, sadly, it was for different reasons, but they were all things that typically I would have thought you could survive, especially if you were in a hospital. So I don't know. I'm really not sure. I'm just as confused as you, but I'm open to any possibility. How about that? Thanks for writing in, Mike. I'm going to do back-to-back DMs here. This one is from Jackie. Hi, Scott. I wanted to comment about your pod on genders. I was recently at a hospital, and they gave me a survey afterwards to ask if I waited long and whatever. At the end of it, what gender you are. At the top of the list was male. Woman was number 7 on the list. Transgender came before women. I was stunned. I made a comment about it at the end of the survey. I was shocked. Jackie, thank you very much. Thank you. Shouldn't be a tough question. This is like a yes or a no or an A or a B. There's really only 2 options. What gender are you? They want to know what gender you are right now. The other categories, people who are an exception, maybe that should just be a line item. Maybe that should be if it requires further explanation, people can fill it in there. I don't know what the solution is. I also don't want to make people uncomfortable. I firmly believe that what you do on your own time is completely up to you. But for statistical purposes, we need to know certain things. I don't know why the hospital, when it really should be male or female, would leave women at number 7 on the list of options for genders that you could be. Does anyone else hear that and think, that's crazy? That came from a hospital, friends. Let's get to another clip. Another reporter that I think has done a heck of a good job at carrying water for Mark Carney and the federal Liberals is Bob Fife. Bob is a longtime political reporter, and he has just announced he is retiring. Well, he was on the Power and Politics panel yesterday on the CBC. Keep in mind, again, Bob Fife is someone who does not like Pierre Poilievre. He has been extremely rude and critical of Pierre Poilievre. This is someone who seems to admire and loves Mark Carney. Here's him. This is about a minute and a half long.
The Conservatives were highlighting today he's missed 100 question periods.
Well, I think it's a serious issue. It's fine for the Prime Minister to travel abroad, and that's his duty to do so. But the fact of the matter, when he is in Canada, he rarely shows up at the House of Commons. And that's to me, is a really serious concern.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's not used to, it's our parliamentary democracy. You have a responsibility, the Prime Minister, to show up and take questions. And, just last night, they pushed through amendments, or pushed through the lawful access law, which is very troublesome. There's a lot of things on that bill that civil libertarians are very concerned about. They pushed it through without any debate. They pushed it through the House of Commons without any debate, and without anybody being able to put amendment forward and argue for it. So I worry that this is a government and a Prime Minister who doesn't care about the significant role that Parliament plays.
He's certainly dismissive of question period.
There is
in particular.
There is a lack of accountability there. It's something I think that his predecessor could not be criticized for. He had every Wednesday, he took every question in the House of Commons. Whether he answered the questions or not might be up for debate, but he was there, and he was there, I would argue, actually most Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. He often wasn't Mondays and Fridays, but the fact that the Prime Minister is not in the House, I think, is a problem. Is it going to change? Not the way his poll numbers are.
How sad is that? How sad is that when you've got a fairly well-respected journalist like Bob Fife calling you out for your attendance and basic lack of respect for a parliamentary democracy? Yikes. That's not good news for the Prime Minister. Hopefully all this stuff is adding up in people's heads. Hopefully the older folks who think that they're well informed because they watch CTV and CBC, hopefully those folks are seeing stuff like that, and it's starting to click that, wait a second, maybe I don't know the whole story about this government. By the way, C-22 is a very, very, very consequential bill. The government has rammed it through. I'm going to play for you some audio on that I think you need to hear. That's coming up. Let me get to another DM, though. This is from Mike. I'm a bit of a hypochondriac myself, and after having a kid, and my dad died in his 50s of a heart attack, I constantly ask my doctor to run tests on me head to toe. He says, we don't need to do your blood work. It looks good. I ended up having AFib one morning and had to be shocked to put my heart back into rhythm. Then I said, I want a brain scan to check for aneurysms. He won't do either. So I either lie to get checked or I have to pay $2,000 at a private clinic. Mike, that is just another symptom of a healthcare system that has been basically thrown to the wolves. There are some good doctors and healthcare professionals in the system that are trying hard to hold it together, but we need to accept the reality that we live in a country where if you need healthcare, it might not be available. You can't say for certain when you're feeling chest pains and go to the hospital that you're going to get world-class treatment. You just can't confidently say that. And that's sad because we're all paying a hell of a lot of money for this, and we should be demanding a hell of a lot better for this. Healthcare is provincial. This is Doug Ford if you're in Ontario. It's Danielle Smith if you're listening in Alberta. It's David Eby if you're listening in British Columbia. Wab Canoe if you're in Manitoba, and the list goes on. This is a provincial matter. But it's not to say the feds don't play some role in healthcare. Let's figure it out. Let's get a whole bunch of people from every party so that everybody is represented, sit them around a table, and say, figure it out. You've got tens of billions of dollars to work with, and all you've got to do is keep Canada healthy. How is this not working? How can people have to pay $2,000 out of pocket just to get some peace of mind when they have legitimate health concerns? How is that right? Figure it out. And if it means we need to spend more money, I don't believe that's the answer, by the way, but if they conclude we need to spend more money, then spend it. But Canadians need to know that when they need health care, it's going to be available. Mike, I'm sorry about your situation, but thank you for sending that in. I'll do back-to-backs here. This one is from George. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for keeping us well-informed and for sharing with us what the media doesn't show. Please keep sharing your viewpoints and common sense. It gives hope to us Canadian working class. Have a good evening, my friend. George, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the note. And yeah, this is an important thing to me. I do it every day because I truly just want Canadians to be informed. If you disagree with me, fine, ignore my opinion, but you can't ignore the facts, and the facts come in the audio, and you've heard some great audio so far that says this Liberal government rammed through a whole bunch of bills that they needed more scrutiny. They did it, and they didn't care about the democracy of it all, this fake majority that they've got. And the Parliament, they don't even take it seriously. The Prime Minister barely shows up for question period. And when he does, he takes a couple questions from the leaders and leaves. They're not taking this seriously. This perception that the news puts out there, that we've got a steady hand on the till and someone who's respected around the world and he's governing for all Canadians. That's simply not true. And now you've already heard it from some strong political pundits on the left. It's time that Canadians start accepting that this government is not as advertised.
I'm Hannah. I've lost 75 pounds in 20 months with GLP-1s, plus diet and exercise. On Row, I've gone from struggling to run a mile to running farther every day. You can access FDA-approved GLP-1s online. Get the support you need to reach your weight loss goals. Go to row.co/weight to see if you qualify. I'm a paid Row partner. 20% average weight loss in 1 year in non-diabetics with obesity or overweight with a weight-related medical condition versus 3.1% in placebo arm. RX only. To stay informed about serious side effects, go to row.co/safety.
Now let's go to the leader of the federal Green Party, Elizabeth May. Here's her yesterday outside the House of Commons talking about Bill C-22 that the Liberals just rammed through.
And in the mix, as ever, there's a unanimous consent motion to put together a number of bills the government wanted to see across the finish line and do it by unanimous consent. I would have rather stayed and gotten the bills done correctly. I'm very concerned that Bill C-22, the Lawful Access Bill, which just went through the House, what is called on division. There have been a number of stories in the media for which I appreciate the diligence of the journalists in noticing how much more frequently in this new government we don't have recorded votes on even very controversial bills. So the Civil Liberties Associations, Open Media, Citizen Lab, numerous experts in technology and privacy and constitutional law have said, don't pass this bill. We had a closure motion, programming motion. I attended I don't know how many hours of sessions in the Public Safety Committee with my amendments at the ready, only to be in the end, and thanks to a Conservative member of Parliament who said before we went through the programming motion and there was a baillon, the guillotine, the end of debate, said, well, maybe, shouldn't Miss May be allowed to say something? So I was allowed to speak briefly to my amendments last night, before midnight. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right in my bones that a bill is controversial, establishing a new surveillance infrastructure, should be passed with a committee just having a rule that says we can't debate amendments before we vote on them. And then for people in my position, that would be me and the member for Vancouver East, Jenny Kwan, with amendments and not really allowed to participate in the meeting at all. So for people who don't notice what happens, I want you to know that when they said unanimous consent, that Bill C-22 goes through on division. I stood to make it clear on the record that the Green Party opposes Bill C-22, and Jenny Kwan stood on the record to make sure everyone knows the NDP opposes Bill C-22. But it's worth noting that every single opposition party opposed a bill that was pushed through just moments ago with a unanimous consent motion and no vote. The gathering forces that affront democracy itself in this place are hard to observe from the outside, but I feel them keenly from the inside. Nous avons maintenant
That's good. Thank you, Elizabeth May. Hey, you don't get any further on the left than Elizabeth May, and that's her trying to tell you that the media's the way the media portrays Mark Carney is not accurate. That's the kind of stuff that's going on in our parliament. That's another reason that it is so important to stay connected on social media and digital media in general, like podcasts, because you're not seeing stuff like that from the mainstream media news. You're just not. Next DM. This one is from Josh. Scott, I have a thought on a perspective in regards to politics, even at the municipal level. If the job is to be the voice of the constituents, why has nobody taken the time to express the voice of the constituents by using a voting poll? So if the councillor needs to vote yes or no on topics previously discussed, could they not post something asking their constituents to vote on a poll, so to speak, and the poll requires confirmation of address, etc.? Then, would you not truly be the voice of the people? Good question. Josh, what you're asking for is democracy, and frankly, the politicians, a lot of them anyway, don't seem to believe in that. Nothing could be more democratic than a referendum, asking the people directly, what do you think? Nothing is more democratic than that. However, we've got a system where we elect politicians and we just trust that they're going to act on behalf of their constituents. Well, that doesn't always happen. There's also a lot of them that said one thing to get elected, but they had an agenda and did something else when they got into office. And there doesn't seem to be a way to get rid of someone when they do that. It's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. Should we have a referendum on every issue? Probably not. No. I mean, at some point, we've got to have some faith and trust in our politicians. But I think anytime it involves money, a referendum's not a bad idea. It wouldn't be hard to get all Canadians verified. Some way to verify that when you go to, CanadaVotes.ca and you say you're Mike Smith and you live in this particular riding, you're entitled to vote on matters in that riding. It wouldn't take long to get to a system where we could verify people, just like the parties do when they're having leadership races. They do it, but we don't do it for general elections, and I don't know why. Get everyone verified once every 4 years, right? Once every 2 years even, and allow them to vote on many different issues. I don't think the government wants to do that because I don't think they care what we think. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think they care. You know how I can prove they don't care? Let's go to yesterday in the House of Commons. This is our finance minister, François-Philippe Champagne. This is 1 minute long.
Mr. Speaker, if he wants to look at results, Canada is the second fastest growing economy in the G7, Mr. Speaker. The G7, Mr. Speaker. We have seen investment in machinery and equipment is up, Mr. Speaker. We have seen that business investment in intellectual property is up, Mr. Speaker. Instead of complaining, you should celebrate our workers, our industry, and Canada. Let's build Canada strong together, Mr. Speaker.
They're just gaslighting you. They're straight up preying on low information Canadians. Those who might come across that clip and think, oh, well, everything's good. Repeating this talking point. We have the second fastest growing economy in the G7. Our economy shrunk. We're in a recession. That's just not true. But we all know the Liberal mantra. If you repeat it again, if you say it louder, if you insist that you're right, people will eventually believe you. That's what this government is doing. They're hoping you're not paying attention. I think if Canadians knew the truth, they'd be outraged. But there's just too many people that turn on the news. They get that perspective from some very left-leaning individuals and assume everything is fine and that they're informed. The reality is not that. Let me get to another DM. Ambrosio. Hey, Scott, listening to your podcast today in regards to taxes on used vehicles. I totally understand that we shouldn't have to pay taxes over and over again on vehicles. However, when a person trades in a car, on a used car or new vehicle, they only pay tax on the difference. So as an example, if they're trading a $20,000 car in on a $30,000 car, they would only pay tax on $10,000. So not sure removing taxes is the solution to this problem, as then you won't be entitled to the tax savings on the new car. Also, as someone that works in used sales, I work for a Japanese brand that manufactures in Japan and Mexico. I don't agree that taxes should be removed on Canadian-made cars only. Okay, thank you. A couple of different things in this one. Ambrosio, no, taxing something that's already been taxed, that should be a hard stop. Absolutely not. We don't do that. When the car was new, taxes were paid on it. Taxing it again because someone else bought it from someone, that's simply not right. The offset, when you buy another vehicle, yeah, there's a bit of an offset there. Does it matter? No. No, it really doesn't, because not everybody's trading in a car. And not everybody's buying a new car either. There's not a lot of people upgrading right now. Canadians need a break, and taxes is the easiest place to give them a break. Every tax that's not completely necessary and every tax that's questionable in nature, like taxing used vehicles, all of those should be looked at and repealed right away. I get that the government needs money, but that's a government problem. They could also cut their spending, but they don't want to do that either. We got to cut taxes for the middle class. That's the only solution. Now, thank you, by the way, for admitting that you work in used cars. I understand you're in the industry and you know a thing or two about it, but I also understand you have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. You don't agree that taxes should be removed on Canadian-made cars only. I mean, that's a debatable point. Absolutely. We can talk about that. It would save people a lot of money. It would incentivize, in a huge way, buying a car that's made in Canada. I don't know that we should necessarily look at taking the taxes off of Canadian-made vehicles, though, until we know what CUSMA's going to look like, until we know what the arrangement is with the Americans. For all we know, there may be no need to do this, depending on how they restructure the auto system. That's something that we should, again, after CUSMA's negotiated and we know the lay of the land, then we can talk about doing stuff like that if the auto sector needs help. Who knows? Whatever we negotiate with the Americans could end up being amazing for the auto manufacturers, and maybe prices will come down. You never know. Let's do another DM here. This one is from Rob. Hey, Scott, was away last week, just catching up on Friday's pod. I can't believe nobody has pointed this out yet. Last May 2025, StatsCan reported we added 8,800 jobs. Then this year in May, it's 88,000. How has nobody pointed this out that StatsCan just multiplied it by 10 and said, look how great 2026 is? Rob, I wondered about that myself, to be honest with you. It seemed like a very, they just took last year's numbers and multiplied it by 10. That's kind of what it seems like, from 8,800 to 88,000. Is that what StatsCan is doing? I mean, I think there's some pretty happy people at StatsCan with this government. They're getting paid big bonuses. They're doing pretty well over there at StatsCan. I'm not going to suggest that they're manipulating the numbers. I don't know what to make of the jobs numbers that came out in May, simply because it doesn't match reality. I mean, everybody knows somebody who's looking for a job right now. It's scary stuff. There's not a lot of people hiring, and young people are still getting screwed. So it doesn't really pass the smell test. Somebody suggested to me that a lot of the jobs that got created last month were people that were doing the census and also people who got hired for the World Cup. And those jobs will come to an end. Well, the StatsCan ones should be done now. The World Cup jobs will be done at the end of next month. Hey, I don't know that anybody is playing the long game here when it comes to stats. I think they're just putting out anything and hoping that people buy it. But on the jobs numbers in particular, hey, if they're right, that's great. 88,000 is good even in good times, let alone bad times. But it just doesn't pass the smell test for me. Let's jump back into the audio here. I want to give the folks over at Northern Perspective, you can follow them at Northern Perspective on the social media platforms. They did a good job at cutting together a little montage of clips here that I want you to hear. This is Conservative members of Parliament questioning Mark Carney's new chief budget officer. This is about 2.5 minutes long. You're going to have to pay attention and try and keep track of who the budget officer is and who the MPs are, but I think you're going to get the gist. The budget officer is Annette Ryan. She's being questioned first off by Member of Parliament Kelly Block. So I'm going to start with the question, and then you're going to hear this whole exchange. Keep in mind, this is the person Mark Carney himself appointed the budget officer for Canada.
Assuming no new measures are introduced and existing temporary measures sunset as scheduled, the budgetary deficit is projected to decline to $58.2 billion by 2030-31. Your report also showed that the debt to GDP ratio will be flat over the medium term. Is that based on the same assumption?
That's correct, Ms. Block.
How many times in the last 10 years has the government not introduced new spending? Did you take that into consideration?
So very few, if not definitely zero. So The report says there's less than 1% chance that the government's deficit to GDP plan unfolds as projected. For the average Canadian watching at home, does that mean that there's a 99% chance the government's plan does not unfold the way they say it will?
I think that is a fair statement.
What are the biggest risks that could cause the Liberal government's fiscal projections to miss their targets?
There's a number of fiscal risks, and I think people are very cognizant of the trade situation, especially with the U.S. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has implications for oil, for trade, for supply routes, for supply chains. And the global stock markets, I think, are an increasing source of risk in that, people are very concerned that the valuations we're seeing right now may be overly inflated, and that could be painful to see it unwind.
If you take away Canada's connection to the U.S. market and you take away one of the biggest reasons that companies choose Canada in the first place, would you say that that's a big risk?
I think it's straightforward that Canada is got significant ties to the U.S., and what happens in the U.S. Has always had big implications for Canada.
That was our Chief Budget Officer. Hey, that's scary stuff. We've got all these assumptions out there, and the media did not question the Prime Minister or this government on them. They put out this budget with all these wild estimations, and they say, oh, don't worry about all the spending right now, because eventually the deficit by 2030, 2031 will be down to just $58 billion a year. So don't worry, everything's going well. Well, that's assuming everything goes as they say it will. Doesn't factor in any new government spending either. And as the budget officer just said, it's happened 0 times in recent memory that there was no new government spending.
I'm Serena Williams, and I'm healthier on Ro. I've lost 34 pounds in a year with GLP-1s, diet, and exercise. On Ro, you can access GLP-1 options, including the first FDA-approved GLP-1 pill for weight loss. Go to ro.co/journey to see if you qualify. 14 to 20% average weight loss in 1 year in non-diabetics with obesity or overweight with a weight-related medical condition versus 2.2% to 3.1% in placebo arm. RX only. To stay informed about serious side effects, go to ro.co/safety.
Let's get to the last DM. This one is from Greg. Hey, Scott, sorry for the loss that you are going through. Glad you're able to take some time to get things right for you. I laugh hearing the what is a woman question coming up again. I love how complex the Liberals make what is supposed to be a pretty simple question and answer. Since you're collecting responses in your DMs, I'd be pretty interested to take notes on how many explanations can describe a woman without making reference to the word woman as part of the description. Interesting question, Greg. I don't know that I'm going to get into that granular level when it comes to the responses I got to that, but not one person sent in a message questioning what was discussed here on the pod. 2 X chromosomes, woman. Women's reproductive organs, woman. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could do it, but the way it was done in that particular episode was not great. Anyway, point taken, Greg. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for sending that one in. Last clip I'm going to play on this pod as well. I'm going to go back to Steve McKinnon. He is the Liberal government House leader. Yesterday, outside the House of Commons, he was bragging about some of the Liberal accomplishments.
But they have found themselves divided and, in my view, on the wrong side of a number of criminal justice matters in this session of the House. And that is a significant now fault line that did not used to exist inside the Conservative Party, or at least the Conservative Party I used to know. I hope that the conspiracies and the tinfoil hats are something that will fade away over time. But we can now safely say that it is the Liberal Party that's the party that's most clearly for law and order in the country.
Again, does anyone believe that the Liberal Party, the party that created the problem in the first place, are the party of law and order? Or that they're the ones to fix the mess that they made? I don't think there's a single Canadian that believes that. But let's go back to what else he said. If you think that Bill C-22 is dangerous, you're a conspiracy theorist, and he even said tinfoil hat. Now, what he's doing is trying to help the media maintain this crazy narrative that conservatives are all a bunch of right-wing conspiracy theorists. Well, it was Elizabeth May, leader of the Green Party, firmly on the left, that you heard earlier talking about how dangerous Bill C-22 is. Meta has come out in opposition to it. Google has come out in opposition to it. Apple has come out in opposition to it. Are they all conspiracy theorists wearing tinfoil hats as well? The federal NDP, led by Avi Lewis, they're against it. Are the people on the left also conspiracy theorists now, so that the only people who are sane and know what they're talking about are liberals? Everyone else is a conspiracy theorist. Because you know what? The people on the right and the people on the far left, they don't like C-22. And the liberals just rammed it through. Friends, have an amazing weekend. I want to say happy Father's Day to all of the dads, the stepdads, the dads-to-be, the grandfathers, the father figures, and the fur dads, and anyone else who's playing that role as father. It's a really important job, and I think over the years, we've really taken it for granted. And in a lot of cases, we've minimized it through a lot of woke ideology. Dads are important in the lives of children. Dads are important to their families. Dads are important to their partners. Dads are very necessary in this world. And I don't think that in any way should we diminish or belittle fatherhood. And I hope that you dads enjoy your day. We all understand, and rightfully so, we make a big production out of Mother's Day. I think dads deserve the exact same treatment because they're just as important. In different ways, though. Friends, have yourselves a great one. I love you for listening to this episode. Like I said at the beginning, share. Take somebody who's on the fence or misinformed, sit them down, and just give them the options. You don't have to listen to this. You can go on thinking everything is great. But if you want to know the other side of the story, Scott Fox After 9. Listen to it daily. I'll catch you right back here on Monday with a new episode of the pod. Have a good one.